Hello team players! In today's video, I want to cover more stuff from Divine Mysteries. More specifically, the new champion options. Oaths, of course, are back. And we've got a pretty good level 14 feat in this book. And of course, other feats that are pretty good in the right situations. But let's just get right into this. So let's start with Oath of the Avenger. This feat requires the Lay on Hands devotion spell, which means you cannot be unholy and take this feat. This feat gives you the edict of hunt down creatures that have harmed innocents or committed atrocities. When you see a creature harm an ally, an innocent, or a non-combatant, you can invoke this oath against that creature. This does not require an action, although most champions do invoke this verbally. This lasts indefinitely, but can be dismissed. If you're satisfied that the target has reformed. You can use your Lay on Hands to damage any creature you've invoked your oath against, as if it were undead. This caused it to do spirit damage instead of vitality damage. And of course gains the spirit trait instead of the vitality trait. This doesn't prevent you from using Lay on Hands to heal the target. They do get a basic fortitude save against this. But giving them a -2 status penalty to their AC and dealing damage to them is really good. And this applies to any creature that can take spirit damage, which is just about everything except constructs. This is a fantastic offensive option for any champion, and gives the champion pretty good versatility. Our second oath is Oath of the Defender, which is definitely more in line of your standard champion. You choose aberrations, celestials, dragons, fiends, or undead. If you're sanctified holy, you can't choose celestials. And if you're sanctified unholy, you can't choose fiends. For that day, you gain an edict to defend against that type of creature. All allies in your champion's aura, except for you, gain resistance to all damage that type of creature can deal out. This damage resistance increases to 3 at 7th level, 4 at 12th level, and 5 at 17th level. If a creature of that type triggers your champion's reaction, and that champion's reaction grants resistance to the triggering damage, increase that resistance by 5. This one is good, it's just incredibly situational, as you are granting resistance to damage from a certain type of creature to all allies in your champion's aura. But it only works on the specific creature you've chosen for that day. But if you don't know what type of creature you're facing that day, then this is completely useless. But if you are facing a type of creature you've chosen, it's incredibly good, because you are protecting all your allies in your champion aura, not just the one that you can use your champion's reaction on. And it makes your champion's reaction even better. But again, this one is incredibly situational, so I wouldn't recommend taking this one unless you know you're in a campaign with a lot of a certain type of creature. Our last oath we got in this book was Oath of the Slayer. Again, each day you're going to select aberrations, celestials, dragons, fiends, or undead. And again, you can't choose celestials if you're holy, or fiends if you're unholy. The edict you gain from this one is to slay or banish creatures of that type. Your strikes and your devotion spells to deal damage do extra spirit damage. 1 at 2nd level, 2 at 7th level, and 3 at 14th level. This damage is doubled against any creature that triggers your champion's reaction. Until the end of your next turn, anyway. Another fantastic option for offensive champions, although it is a little situational again, because you do have to pick the creature that this applies to. But this is especially good for Justice champions, because you can use that extra damage, that double damage, right away. Since your champion's reaction allows you to hit a target as part of the reaction. And again, this extra damage is spirit damage, which means that it works on any creature that isn't a construct. If you're wanting to build a champion that is a little more offensive, I recommend either this feat or Oath of the Avenger. Otherwise, if you wanted to play a more traditional champion, go with Oath of the Defender. Now, we don't get another new feat until level 8, but Sense Holiness and Sense Unholiness are basically the same feat, just with one slight difference. The only difference between these two feats is one applies to holy creatures and the other applies to unholy creatures. You can sense the presence of creatures with that trait within 120 feet. But this does act like a human sense of smell, so it's a vague sense. You can tell that there's holy or unholy creatures around, but you're not going to be able to pinpoint it with just that. Any creature with that trait that is trying to use a disguise or otherwise hide its presence must make a deception check against your perception DC to hide its sanctification. If they succeed, they're immune for 1 day. This is a decent out-of-combat option, but in a lot of campaigns, you're probably not going to use this very much. But this only works on creatures that are sanctified, holy or unholy. So it'll work on fiends, it'll work on celestials, it'll work on certain other clerics and champions, but otherwise it's not going to do anything for you. So again, unless you're running into that type of thing a lot, I don't recommend this feat. Either of these feats, actually. But it is a good flavor feat, and it can be good outside of combat. We've got 2 feats to talk about for level 12, and we're going to start with Enforce Oath. For this feat, you need to have any Oath feat, and you can use it once per hour. You select one creature that you've sworn an oath against that you can see. You gain a +1 status bonus to AC and armor class against anything that creature can do. You also gain a +1 bonus to attack rolls against that creature. But you also take a -1 penalty to those same things against every other creature. These penalties last as long as you are using this feat. You can use this feat indefinitely, but it ends if the creature you swore an oath against is reduced to 0 hit points, you fall unconscious, or the enemy goes unnoticed by you for more than 1 minute. You can also dismiss this effect at any time as a free action. This is really, really good because essentially you're giving yourself a forbidding ward in boss fights. It's not as good if you're facing a bunch of enemies, because those enemies, other than the one that you've enforced your oath against, they get to hit you harder, and you don't get to hit them harder. It's really good in boss fights, but otherwise, you probably don't want to use this. And then we have Pale Horse. You need the Faithful Steed champion feat, as well as to be unholy to take this feat. When you mount your steed, you can select fire, poison, or void damage. Your steed gains resistance 10 to that damage type, and any creature that touches your steed takes 1d6 damage of the chosen type. This can include an unarmed attack or attack with a melee weapon while they are adjacent to the steed. This damage is 2d6, at 16th level and 3d6 at 20th level. Unholy champions are very good at punishing enemies for attacking them in melee combat, and this feat is no exception to that rule. As such, this is definitely a feat you want to take if you've chosen the feat for Steed and you're an unholy champion. Not only does the Steed give you much more mobility, but enemies are going to want to attack the Steed, which means they take damage. At level 14 is what I consider to be the best champion feat in this whole book. This one is good no matter what cause you end up picking. Exalted Greatness does require the Exalted Reaction ability, but every champion gets that at level 11, so not a big deal. The effect of this feat depends on what cause you are. If you are Desecration cause, then you get a +2 status bonus on all saving throws against effects created by every enemy in your champion's aura, making it extremely difficult for enemies to affect you with anything if they're in your champion's aura. If you're Grandeur cause, then your revealing light from your flash of grandeur lasts for 1 minute. The main thing this is good for is concealed and invisible creatures, as this just says, you can't be concealed to me for the next minute, which is kind of situational, but is good if you're running into that type of thing. If you're Inequity cause, then you deal even more damage to other enemies besides the triggering creature that are in your champion's aura, which is good if you want to do a bunch of damage and your Inequity cause. But Inequity is the worst one, but this does make it slightly better when you get to level 14. If you're Justice cause, then all allies in your champion's aura get to make a strike as a reaction at a -2 rather than a -5. This makes it much easier for allies to hit the target of your retributive strike. If you're Liberation cause, then you and all your allies in your champion's aura can try to escape from something. If you're Obedience cause, then enemies other than the triggering enemy who don't fall prone take extra damage, on top of the mental damage they're already taking. Obedience is probably the best one for unholy champions, and this just makes it even better. And finally, if you're Redemption cause, the resistance you gain from Exalted Resistance for you and all your allies is not reduced by 2. Effectively meaning you're giving your champion's reaction to yourself and all your allies. Justice is definitely the best champion's reaction for offensive champions. But with this feat, Redemption is definitely the best one for defensive champions, because you're giving the enemy a choice of no damage at all or resistance to the damage for all allies. And that's the full resistance for the entire party with just this feat and your champion's reaction. If you're going Redemption, you definitely want this feat. And I will say, this feat makes all champions' reactions better, at least somewhat. Even Inequity, which was horrible before. But now, with this feat, you're taking a little bit of damage to do damage to all enemies in your champion's aura. At level 18, again, we've got 2 feats that basically do the same thing: Celestial Form and Fiendish Form. The main difference between these 2 feats are the type of traits you gain, and one requires you to be holy, and the other requires you to be unholy. But both feats give you a fly speed equal to your speed, and dark vision if you don't already have it. Of course, the Celestial Form gives you the Celestial trait, and Fiendish Form gives you the Fiend trait, as well as the trait that is appropriate to the type of servitor you become. So, archon, demon, devil, angel, whatever it is. Unfortunately, none of these traits give you anything in particular, but the fly speed and dark vision is pretty nice. Honestly, these feats aren't even worth it at level 18. I think you could have made these much lower level. If anything, I would have made them like level 12 or something. But level 18, these aren't worth it at level 18. The last feat we got in this book is also level 18, but I don't think it's worth it either, to be honest with you. With Retributive Focus, if your focus pool is currently empty, once per day you can use a free action when an enemy triggers your champion's reaction to get back 1 focus point. This is okay if you use your focus points a lot, but I don't think this is worth a level 18 feat. There are 2 ways I would fix this. First, remove the once per day. I feel like getting 1 focus point back just isn't worth a level 18 feat. The other way you could fix this is by making it so you get all your focus points back when you use this. I would not do both, but I would at least either make it not once per day or all your focus points back when you use this. Do either one of those, and I think this is worth a level 18 feat. Otherwise, this feat just completely sucks. I mean, really. And that's all the new options we got in Divine Mysteries. We've got some good feats. We got 1 amazing feat and some decent feats. Unfortunately, the level 18 feats I don't think are very much worth it. I mean, the form feats are cool, but they give you one thing that you can very easily get at level 1, and one thing you can very easily get at level 9. And the last feat just isn't worth it for level 18. Not at all. I do hope you guys at least enjoy some of these options though. But if you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more Pathfinder 2e teamwork content. And leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys think of these new options. And if you guys want to see a remastered champion build, you can check out this video here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and remember, teamwork is vital. It helps us solve problems.